What's up, Nerfherders? We are back to give you our review of The Rise of Skywalker and I guess our official, ranking of the original, the 9 movies.
Yeah.
It's time to assemble, guys. Let us know what you guys thought of the movie down in the comments below. This will be spoiler-filled. After a certain point in the video, we will start talking spoilers. So for the first couple minutes here, you're going to be okay.
We will give proper warning before we do so.
Yeah, but don't go down into the comments because there's going to be spoiler discussion talk. So,
and if you started in the comments, we're sorry.
Yeah, if you started in the comments, well, that's not our problem because it said spoiler review in the title. So, I mean,
you've seen it by now.
Hopefully, yeah. As you know, the Nerfherders crew does not do strictly spoiler-free reviews, at least right now.
Mm-hmm.
That might change. We don't know. But, yeah. So the end of the Skywalker saga, or maybe, because it says Rise of Skywalker, we still don't know what that's going to end up meaning.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So we're a waiting game there.
Mm-hmm.
But so what were your guys' impressions coming out of the theater? Like, how'd you guys feel?
I personally left the theater feeling very, satisfied in the fact of if it was truly the end, I'm okay with where they left most of it. I mean, obviously, everybody's going to have plot holes that, they didn't cover this or they didn't cover that. But overall, the feeling of watching that movie, Rise of Skywalker, was very nostalgic. It felt very original trilogy versus the prequel trilogy. And I felt of the final trilogy, it was the best of the three. So
one of my main things was that that it didn't. I didn't really get an original trilogy feel out of it, but I did leave the theater happy.
Yeah,
I didn't leave the theater mad. I'm stewing about it a little bit now, but I didn't leave the theater upset.
I know it's cliche to say, but I felt offended by the movie. I think as fans, we deserved a better movie. We're entitled to a better movie. I thought, no, I'm kidding. It was good. It was good. I really,
there's always one.
Yeah.
I feel like half of that might be true when we get into spoiler talk.
I completely understand the hate for this movie. I understand the criticisms for this movie. I think it's full of fan service. But I think, when you're backed into a corner, you can only do so much. And I think that Last Jedi really did put them in a corner. And, J.J. Abrams was, say it however you want to say it, but he was brought in to fix things.
Yes.
And not to redo The Last Jedi. And they only gave him one movie. Had they said, hey, this was not going to be a trilogy, we're going to actually go to 10. It could have been better, could have been more original, but he had one movie to wrap this up. And I think, he did what he could. And I walked away thinking that it could have been better, but it could have been a hell of a lot worse. And I found ways to enjoy it. So I did enjoy it more than I was expecting to. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm giving the movie, before we start talking spoilers, I'm giving the movie a 7 out of 10. So that's where it landed for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
I'd go about 8 out of 10, but
so,
I'm always ever the optimist of the group.
and it's a rough ranking system for me, but I've still got to stick Empire up on the top spot for number 1.
Mm-hmm.
New Hope hits down below after that. The Force Awakens actually comes in at number 3 for me. Because I enjoyed The Force Awakens a little bit more than Jedi, which falls in at number 4. Return of the Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rise of Skywalker, The Last Jedi, and then Revenge of the Sith tops out the prequels. Phantom Menace comes in at the middle, and then Attack of the Clones at the very bottom.
Okay.
Attack of the Clones was that one was really hard to. That was really hard to watch.
Okay. Yeah.
After my most recent rewatch of that movie was tough.
It's the worst. It's the worst in visual effects. It's the worst in storytelling.
Yes.
It's the worst in costumes. It's so everything.
It is the best in memes.
It's the best in memes.
Out of all the prequel memes that are out there, the best ones came from Attack of the Clones.
Yeah,
I just
Mine would be close to yours. I would do episode 5, episode 6, episode 4. I'd just do like the original trilogy. And then I would do Force Awakens, episode 3. Force Awakens, this movie, Rise of Skywalker, episode 3, Phantom Menace, The Last Jedi, and Clones at the end.
Yeah, I'm right about there with you.
I know that was really convoluted. I'm sorry, that was confusing as hell.
The prequels landed at the bottom for me because it was just really tough to rewatch those.
And I think we'll put our lists hardcore in the comments.
Yeah,
when we're
for
done,
sure.
so that way it's there.
And they change over time.
I mean, I feel like the prequels, they're not like episode 2 is horrible. Phantom Menace, while it has its problems, it's not as bad as I remember it to be. I recently watched it again, and I'm like, I didn't come out saying, oh, wow, this is really good, but it wasn't as bad as I remembered. I think now that I've had some time, and now that we've had these, now that we have a new thing to despise. But
right.
I think Phantom Menace wasn't as bad, and Revenge of the Sith wasn't as bad either. I really do feel like those are better films than The Last Jedi. Even though Last Jedi has a couple of good things in it, and it certainly looks nicer. I mean, obviously the newer movies look a billion times better than the prequels, but I'd still place those higher than Last Jedi.
Yeah, Last Jedi is way down there on my list as well.
Which is funny because there's a lot of people who are putting Last Jedi like way up at the top.
See, I start my list with
they're just anarchists.
episode 2. And then, no, I'm just kidding. Execute Order 66.
Right.
So, from here, now is the time. We are going to start our discussion on Rise of Skywalker, and it is going to be spoiler filled. So,
not free.
If you have not watched it, if you have not
read Reddit in the last year, then don't don't listen any further.
But yeah, now is the time to bail if you have not seen Rise of Skywalker. So you have been warned. Now, when the news first came out that Lando Calrissian was going to be in this movie, my first thought was, don't kill him. Don't kill him. Like, you guys just keep killing off these OG characters.
You gotta keep one of them alive.
Don't do it.
One human alive, yeah.
So I was quite happy to see that he survived.
And he had his moment too at the end.
He had all of his moments.
Well,
he was spry for an old guy.
He did. Yeah. He got like, honestly,
give Leia my love. Is she free to hook up now that Han's out of the picture?
Right.
Yeah.
Give it to her yourself.
The introduction of him was interesting. I would not have expected that.
No, when he took the helmet off, I was surprised.
Yeah, he's like hanging out at Burning Man and just riding around in a little cruiser. Yeah.
I was expecting.
I know, right? What else was he doing in that thing? Right? Yeah.
When we saw the fleet, I expected that they wouldn't be on like the desperate hideout that they had been doing, like maybe because like the First Order had taken kind of a hit and the power vacuum left behind by Snoke would leave them a little bit unorganized.
Mm-hmm.
So the New Republic, if you want to call it that, would have had, or the Resistance and the New Republic would have had time to kind of like reevaluate everything, like kind of get back together. And I always thought that Lando, because like he was a businessman, he was on Cloud City.
Yeah. Maybe
he had been like a nice financial donor or something like that, or like he had helped like provide some support to him or something like that. So I expected him to take a very small role, but yeah, then we saw the trailer where he was like flying the Falcon and
right.
Like, and then
we see general. They called him a general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, that was pretty nuts. But I think that was kind of like the only fan servicey moment where I was like, okay, I don't hate that. And I didn't hate all the fan service, but there got to be so much of it to where it kind of felt like pandering.
Well, before we address that, there was one other thing about Lando. So if Lando is a general, but he's not with the rebellion or the resistance or whatever it's called, and he's been hanging out, as he's been doing, how did they all know who he was? Like, when they met him, C-3PO was like, this is General Lando Calrissian, and they're like, yeah, we know who he is. Like, how? You're like teenagers, and he's been hanging out here for God knows how long. We've never seen him in the previous movies. Like,
Well, I mean,
did you get a course on who all the generals were that don't really act anymore?
Well, I mean,
he was a legend in the Resistance, I'm sure.
Yeah, but I mean, how much have they?
I mean, how many of them have really met? I mean, I guess they met Luke and stuff, but like
Well, only Rey met Luke.
Right.
Really.
Well, I mean, it's one of those too. Like even in regular history and stuff, we sit there and like none of us have met George Washington, but we all know who he is.
I mean, I guess,
was gonna
but
say,
it's not
in
like they
Resistance
went
history.
through like Resistance,
And that was a pretty
class.
big resistance right there.
Yeah,
I can see them knowing Lando, Han, like the big heavy hitters. Really, Ori? You gonna hang out up there
I'm
now?
gonna hang out up there. All right.
All
Well, maybe that's a nitpick, but yeah, on point of fan service, they
I
had
get
a
what
ton.
you're saying though, because also too, because it is such a
Oh, he's
huge
coming to the table
universe.
now.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you want some of this Ray's energy drink.
Do you mind?
There's a lot of fan service, and it was over the top. There's the ongoing jokes that this was written by Reddit.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know, it cracked me up at times, like when they were like trying to close every loophole, or not every loophole, just everything that anybody's ever brought up about the saga.
A lot of complaints about the previous movies where like they were trying to throw some sort of nod at him to like Chewie getting a medal.
Yeah,
Like
Chewie getting a medal.
we talked about this like right after you. I think after you saw it, you were the late one.
That was the first thing I mentioned in our chat and stuff. Was like Chewie got his medal.
Chewie got a medal.
So
And then here comes Josh.
So I liked it. I liked that they did that.
But he didn't. He didn't get a medal.
He didn't get his medal.
He got Han's medal, not after Han died, but after Han's wife died. Like, she was like, okay, just give this to him when everyone else is dead, and then you can have it as a keepsake.
So I mean,
It's not your medal, it's Han's medal.
Yeah, you can look at it that way, but also you can look at it as somebody is finally just giving him a gesture, be like, "Hey, we know how important you are.
Now
This
that all
is
your
really-
friends are dead,
This is really just a consolation."
before you die.
But Han would have wanted you to have it after, like maybe Han would have wanted you to have this after Starkiller Base because of how much you did, even though you did shoot his kid.
Yeah, shoot at his kid. Did he? Oh, he did.
Yeah, he
shoot
hit him.
He did hit him.
That was kind of like my long-standing thing after like people started arguing about how well Finn did against Kylo in The Force Awakens. But even though Kylo kind of seemed like he was just playing with him, but he was also injured. Like he had taken that blaster to the side and he was bleeding and all that stuff.
Did.
So.
Yeah.
And Kylo's also an impulsive teenage girl in that movie, so that might have had something to do. I still liked his performance though. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk. Hold up. Let's talk about some of the positives of this film, because I think, to me, Kylo is like one of the biggest positives of this film.
Like I was not a fan of Kylo coming in, just like of the character. I didn't really connect with him.
Well, and again, in The Force Awakens, he was just like kind of this emotional. Like he wasn't scary. Like,
Yeah, he was the
just a
gothic
more-
kid with power. That's what he
more
was.
of an emo,
Yeah.
and he was like an emo kid who got a gym membership or something. Like that.
He didn't have the gym membership until the second movie.
Right.
Yeah,
That's why
showing
he
off them
shirt on.
pecs.
Right.
And you could tell he was like a first time gym goer, and he was like, "Yeah, this is how I walk around now."
Have you seen my Death Star? And my dad
Well, that's one of the things that I really liked about the Rise of Skywalker that they brought over from the Last Jedi was the mind link
Yeah.
that he continued to have.
Like the physical link.
And they
right.
did it even better.
Yeah.
It was. I mean, they were like walking around in each other's spaces, but they couldn't necessarily see where they were. And when they interacted with something, it kind of bled over to where they were.
Right.
That
And-
first scene with not the first scene. Well, because he grabs the necklace.
Yeah, that was
and
like
everything.
that was
cool.
I think that was like the first real mind
Yeah,
link.
the second one when they do their battle and he's on Gemini or whatever that place is, and she's up in his bedroom pretty much.
Right.
And like the fruit is spilling out on the floor and stuff like that. That was really cool visual.
Yeah,
They
it was.
blended
like
that really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I thought that watching it and stuff, and then how when it's sliced and then it spilled into his
Oh,
where
that's
he
where
was
you
at,
are.
and then he realized. Well, and then Vader's mask.
Vader's
He's like,
mask,
oh,
yeah.
she's in my room.
Right. She's hanging out in my bedroom.
Right.
What's up?
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah.
like that mind link and the ability to pass physical matter in between all that, Like, that was, like, the big debate when The Last Jedi came out. I was like, why is that a thing all of a sudden now? Like, why is that
so
a thing?
remind me what the physical matter was passed in The Last Jedi.
Han's dice. And water from Rey.
Like, in The Last Jedi. Yeah, why was I thinking The Return of the Jedi? I was like, what? I don't remember that in Return of the Jedi, but that's right. The Han's dice thing. That's right.
But, like, I thought that was great because so the first movie was called The Force Awakens. Now, we've got two separate, well, I guess not necessarily. We've got Rey who had no formal Jedi training really.
Mm-hmm.
And like she learned that she could do these things probably based off of like old like legends of some kind. Like there's got to be reading material in that world because she knew about Luke Skywalker. She thought he was a myth. It was like it was a story that got told children. Kylo was getting trained by Snoke, who, as we know now, was manufactured by Palpatine, basically.
Well, he first got trained by Luke, and then he was trained in Dark Side by Snoke. Yeah.
And we've already seen some like new uses of the Force.
Mm-hmm.
Like in The Force Awakens, we saw Kylo freeze a blaster bolt, and in the most recent Jedi Fallen Order game, like Force slowing of stuff or kind of like freezing stuff is one of like the main powers in there.
It's absolutely fine to me that we have new Force powers.
Yeah, it's necessary.
As long as it's not over the top, you know, and I it's just, I mean, you know, the coolest thing about what was that game, Force Unleashed, was you got to do some of the things that Luke did in the books and in the comics after the original trilogy. It was like, you know, bringing down a Death Star or a Star Destroyer or whatever.
It's the most epic moment in that
it was
game,
really
too.
cool. And, you know, I mean, it's just like, you know, I know we can't have all these movies with Rey training and everything, but she is so overpowered in these movies. And I mean, the only real explanation is that she's a legacy child, is that she's related to other people. But I mean, you know, that
what was
just
the
doesn't
other
make
side though? Like, because you got to imagine the other side of her family too. Because like it was just her son was Palpatine. Who was the mother?
Right, but then it didn't even seem like her. So her dad is the son of Palpatine, which who knows when that dude slept around. But anyway.
It was in the Senate, so...
Yeah, he was just getting ladies left and right, come sleep with a senator.
But hey, how would you like to sleep with the Senate?
But the dad didn't look like he was powered at all, Rey's dad. So they're basically just saying that since she's the granddaughter of a Sith Lord...
Maybe it skips a generation.
I mean, but think about it. Like, Luke didn't have crazy amounts of power when he was young, and he was the son of Vader. You know, like... I mean, it took him a long time to get to the level he was on.
Girls mature faster than boys.
The Return of Jedi. Jesus. The Return of the Jedi, he was badass, and he was like at the cusp of the first time we saw Rey. Like it just seemed like Rey just has everything, and I don't care if we saw her running around in the forest with Leia as her master. Like
maybe because there isn't as many Jedi, it's focused on just. Like they don't have to. Like the Force doesn't have to get split up.
They
anymore.
do say that 1,000 generations live in you, and yeah, maybe that's their thing. Now that there's not 20 Jedi running around in an arena, it's all her, so she just has it. I guess.
Well, I mean, also to factor in with Palpatine, he's super powered, and I mean, if you sit there and you look at it, of all of the characters. He really has the most power, or at least the most control with the Force lightning and stuff like that. So it's not that far of a stretch to say that his lineage would go that way as well.
I guess.
And maybe it's one of those where her dad, it's just dormant, that it's there, but maybe he was raised completely unaware of who his dad was until...
So
they came after Rey.
So there's a thing that exists in the Star Wars universe. It hasn't really been mentioned in any of the movies or anything like that. But for Jedi, it used to be kind of a punishment for like severe crimes committed by Jedi to cut off their connection to the Force, to actually like remove their ability to feel and manipulate the Force.
By what? Like midichlorian, like.
By using, I don't know. I don't like there was the Knights of the Old Republic games. The Force of the Knights of the Old Republic specifically wipes memory from the main character. Spoiler alert there. But it's talked about again here in the Jedi Fallen Order game. One of the characters actually does it herself. She like disconnects from the Force.
Yeah.
Or she states that she does. So, and I mean, that sounds like something Palpatine could do.
Yeah.
If he was like, yeah, I don't want my son to, like, it's not the right time. I don't want my son, or he's not powerful enough. I don't even want him to have these abilities. So I'm just gonna remove that capability from him.
That Anakin was gonna be his successor.
Right.
So maybe it was one of those where he just...
Well, that was my favorite part about this movie, is when they discussed how Palpatine survived the Return of the Jedi and what he's been doing all this time. They gave us that... No, they didn't. They didn't talk about that at all.
I will tell you right now that I hated that they mentioned him right away in the crawl.
Yeah, they were... I mean, like the
right
dead
away.
speak is the first thing they say. There's no mystery. There's no, oh, we heard he might be around. We heard he might be around. We got to investigate this. It's like, nope, he's here. It's like, okay, let's do a basis here. What did we all think of The Last Jedi? Were we all on the same page? Did you like it? Did you not like it?
I liked it. I didn't love it.
Okay.
And same, I'm in the camp though that like I just enjoy Star Wars and I just whatever.
As far as like plot holes and storytelling, it fell short for me.
Yeah, there was a lot, but yeah,
I effing hated it. So I feel like if we had a redo of that film, we would have gotten that. We would have had time to develop that mystery. I really don't think that Palpatine was ever in the initial plans. I think, had JJ done his second film, he would have had Snoke. I feel like because Rian Johnson killed off Snoke, we had to bring Palpatine back. And
all I have to say though is fuck Rian Johnson.
As far as The Last Jedi goes, I feel like JJ had a plan for all this stuff already.
I think he did.
Like,
I feel like
even from The Force Awakens, JJ was like, I'm gonna bring Palpatine back.
Oh, I don't believe that for a second. So, I think it was done really well. I think it looked really great, but I don't believe that for a second.
That was kind of my main beef with The Rise of Skywalker, is that from the opening segment of the movie, it flew through stuff. Like, it was just like,
because it was
like
it
they
was
were banging around because
we don't have time to hang around this. Yeah,
he did not get a lot of time to set anything up.
No, but then it did slow down. It was like, we need a condensed version of what a second film would be like, and then we'll get into this film.
All right, before we continue, I'm going to cut that camera because it's going to shut us off if I don't.
I was like, why do you keep on tapping your wrist, Gerald?
Gerald's giving me the warning. Okay,
and I don't want to be like, oh, stop.
We're back up and going, so.
Okay, so this is why I really do wish, though, they would have abandoned this idea of a sequel trilogy and just given him 2 films. Because, I felt like there was so much in that first 45 minutes of them jumping between scenes, and we could have built up the mystery of Palpatine instead of just saying, yep, he's back, deal with it,
This movie did kind of, like, at a lot of points, this movie felt like it would have been better as, like, a synopsis.
I would have taken...
Not like in... Like, the final 3 films could have been condensed into something different.
I would have taken a 4-hour movie with an intermission.
Oh, God. I'm not... After Endgame, I'm not doing 3-hour movies in theaters anymore.
Yeah, whether or not Snoke was going to be the big bad by the end of JJ's original trilogy, I don't believe for a second Palpatine was planned to bring back. But he brought him back, and it looks amazing. It looks really cool. I loved that Sith arena that he had with all the followers. That was creepy as hell when they blew that out, and you're like, oh shit, they're like all there. I mean, it looked great. They clearly gave JJ the money to make this work.
Yeah.
And even though I knew in my heart while I was watching it that this was what they had left to do. This was they were cornered into kind of making this decision. At least it looked great and it played out great, and that's why I chose to enjoy it instead of being like, this is bullshit. This is clearly not the original direction. But what are you gonna do? I mean, as a writer myself, I can't imagine having an idea for a trilogy, doing the first book, having some notions in my head what the second and third will be, and then some completely other dude comes in and does the second one that's totally not what I planned, and then I somehow have to close that up. Like, I don't envy what JJ had to do, so I don't blame him for what he did.
Right. So there was one particular thing that stuck out in the movie that that really did kind of annoy me, and it wouldn't have been a problem if they had made a correct decision in The Last Jedi. So right as they're falling into the quicksand, what do we hear? Rey, I never told you.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. He's gonna tell her that he loves her,
right?
Or that he wants to be with her, or some shit like that. And then they joke about it again. We don't hear about it again. Like he doesn't say anything to her. If Finn wasn't there, like if Finn had in The Last Jedi when he was going to sacrifice himself to save the Resistance, and Rose hadn't pulled her bullshit, it would have been fine. That wouldn't have been a thing at all. Because Rey and Kylo had been kind of getting teased as the romantic interest between the two of them for a while there. Like those two are going to pair up, especially in The Last Jedi. That was very apparent that was the direction that they were going in.
Yeah.
And I would have been fine with that. Like that emotional connection that they were trying to make between those two characters, and then like it would have been fine. But then it's like, okay, well, how are they going to settle this love triangle thing? Oh, they're going to kill Kylo off.
Finn was one of the biggest disappointments for this whole trilogy for me because, I mean, if you remember...
After The Force Awakens. During The Force Awakens, I thought he was great. But The Last Jedi and this movie, he fell flat for me, which is really sad because he's a great actor. John Boyega is a great actor.
I just think they didn't develop him. I mean, if you remember, Poe wasn't supposed to survive The Force Awakens. They were originally going to kill him off. And then he fought to stay on. And I love him. I love his character. He's great. But he fought to stay on. But think about it. If we didn't have Poe, how much more could Finn have been developed if you weren't splitting it? But you need that trinity. You need that trinity of friends.
Right. Well, and then they also were teasing the connection between Finn and Poe. And
yeah. But they were...
Are they going to be romantically...
Yeah. I mean, you can be two guy friends and not be...
Okay, we got
bromance. Or if that was the way they were going to go and commit to it.
Yeah, either commit to it or don't commit to it.
Right.
Okay, so I really do feel like Finn... I mean, you had this amazing thing of an ex-stormtrooper. I feel like there could have been so much more you could have done with him. Like, think about it. If you were a stormtrooper and you knew that you had a problem with everything that was going on and that you were kind of forced into that, wouldn't you maybe have a reluctance to kill other stormtroopers, thinking that other stormtroopers might have gone through the same shit as you did? But no, they never explore that. Like, he is willing to just mow down other stormtroopers like everybody else is, knowing full well that he can't be the only person that was recruited against their will.
Well, they kind of touched that when he discovers the other...
He discovers the other people, but they never touched that, though. They never touched the...
Well, that part, but he thought he was the only one.
Why? Why would he think he was the only one in an empire worth of
No, I fully agree.
And then he never like hesitates once in the whole trilogy of, maybe I shouldn't kill this stormtrooper because he might be like me.
Right, or he didn't know that there weren't others even on where he was stationed at as a stormtrooper.
Right.
Like,
and I guess if you don't take off your own helmet, if you never do that, then you might never know. You're not encouraged to talk about those type of things.
Yeah, but they have small talk conversations like all the time.
But with us being
in the new series, and they do.
Right. With us being
they did it. They did in the original A New Hope. They were already talking about like you had a couple stormtroopers bitched about like, oh, probably another drill.
That's right.
But like they've got to have work complaints.
So I was just sad that they never... I feel like that could have added so much depth to Finn as a character and his, because he was a little reluctant in the beginning to join the Resistance.
Right.
And then now he's just gung-ho. Now he's a general.
Right.
I mean...
But to touch back, too, with us being prior service, I know that you knew who in your squad was happily enlisted and was going to re-enlist, and who, when their enlistment was up, they were out the door.
Right.
And same with me, is that in my platoon and stuff, I knew who was happy to be in, who joined because they had to.
True.
And stuff like that. So I would imagine, we didn't have Darth Vader.
Yeah.
That kind of goes against your point, though, because if your platoon. Why wouldn't you know about, like, he in The Force Awakens, he runs into a guy who's like, traitor, like,
Yeah.
he obviously knew who he was.
Yeah.
So
Like,
then
right away, they knew he was out there. So there was
Right.
an emotional connection.
Right,
Like,
that's what I'm
hey,
saying. That-
you're not just a criminal, like, you're not just resistant scum, you are a traitor. So you'd imagine that there'd be some sort of like honor code there. But we also don't get introduced to any other stormtroopers that are like that until this movie. But like, why
movie.
not? Like, why
Right.
wouldn't there be more who are part of the
then it was a
with
resistance?
such a massive empire of bad guys. You tell me that this is the first time stormtroopers have ever rebelled, you
right. And, well, I mean, shoot, the clone troopers even rebelled.
know? Yeah.
Well, not in the movie. Not in the movies, unfortunately.
But that was
Well,
only
not-
one
but
part
in
of my disappointment for Finn. The other part was that this is Finn's go-to. He just screams when something happens. Like, Poe gets shot and he goes, Poe! You know, and he runs over to Poe like, he got shot in the arm, calm down. Rey is on whatever, you know, the fallen Death Star
wreckage.
in the waves, and she's fighting Kylo in a really cool, and Finn just shows up and goes, Rey! What was the point of that? Like, are you just trying to distract her from the fight? Did you have any way to help her? No. He was just on. It was like if Tom Brady was playing a game and his wife is just on the sideline going, Tom, like during the whole game. How is that helping?
I mean,
it makes no sense.
I mean, maybe that's his thing. I don't know.
And of course, she just goes like, no, and pushes him back. But I wanted more like, dude, get the fuck out of there. Like, stop bothering me. Like, I'm trying to fight here, and you're just, I can't leave her. Well, then why'd you go there if you couldn't help her? Like, what?
Yeah, I mean, even Jano was saying, was like, we can't do anything. Like, let's go. Like, what do you want? Let's get out of here.
You want to show that he's in love with her. I get it. But instead of being like, he's in love with her and wants to help her, he was just like that annoying dude on the sidelines that offered nothing.
He's also been given no indication by Rey that she can't handle herself.
Yeah.
Like, in no part of it.
Or
He's
that
like,
she returns his feelings. He's just like that sappy dude that's just
In the
following her
rom-coms.
around.
he's gotten friend-zoned hard.
Friend zone hard, and he just keeps on running after, you know, and then he chastises Poe for being like, she can handle himself, you know. That whole exchange before then didn't make sense to me when Poe was like, well, let's fix the ship so we can go get her. And Finn's like, no, we got to go get her now. She feels something that you don't understand, and only people like her and me and Leia understand it. And he's like, well, I'm not Leia. And he's like, you sure the hell are. And I'm watching this, I'm like, what is the point of this conversation?
I wasn't following there either.
What?
Like, and like, they know what's up because, like, right off in the beginning when they get reconnected with each other, it was like, we could have used you out there. You're like our best fighter. Like,
Yeah, and that
would've
makes
been
sense.
nice.
And she is constantly going off on her own, which I could see being annoying. I could see being like,
Yeah.
would you stop? Would you stop with your little side missions and help us out? But as
So
soon
How
as
she
Finn
got so
saw that
strong,
she
though.
got across the waves and that she was safe, he should have been like, okay, let's get the Millennium Falcon. Let me help somebody. Let me be of service, and then we can go help her. But instead, he raced after her just to yell her name twice and be of complete uselessness. It was annoying.
So the last thing that I've got as far as like that I want to talk about as far as like major complaints, because this could go on forever talking
It
about
could
the
go
Star
on.
Wars series. But since this is a video and I have to edit it,
But we all like this movie.
yeah, we did like this movie. It's just
Some of us apparently more than others.
so one of the obviously one of the big things about the Empire is power. Like 100%, we want the most power no matter what. Does every fucking movie have to revolve around some planet-killing death weapon? It's like, can there not be some other threat that they like? A fleet that size doesn't matter if you can kill a planet. Really doesn't matter if you can kill a planet. Like, I mean, how long was the Empire like in charge of absolutely everything, even before A New Hope? And they were scary as shit before people knew about the Death Star.
Uh-huh.
Like, they were terrifying. Like like so now they've advanced the technology so much. We went from like a planet-sized 5 planets at a time killer weapon to Star Destroyers that are now planet destroyers.
Yeah.
I mean, they're living up to their name finally, I guess, but
Right.
but yeah, it's just,
That's the legacy of Star Wars. So you had the Death Star, in New Hope. You had the hat-finished Death Star, but fully functional in The Return of the Jedi. Then you had Starkiller Base in Force Awakens. Now you just have hundreds of Death Stars on each ship is a Death Star, pretty much. Like, and he just conjured that. Like, they seem to suggest he just conjured up that fleet.
I mean, they broke out of under the ground. Were these things buried?
And I get it that he's been, like, apparently on this planet since the Return of the Jedi. So that's been, what, like 40 years?
30,
40 years.
Like that.
But still, he did all that? Like, or all of his robed followers
Obviously,
did all that?
they were not union employees.
Obviously, he had like a lot of people.
Yeah, he had people to man all of that, too.
But that also kind of opened up a hole. It's like, how the hell did they get there? Because they needed those little special wayfinders in order to find this planet. It's like, okay, well, did Palpatine teleport these people to this place? Was there a Sith army already there? Like, was that where they were hiding?
Yeah, that was
like, I had a lot of questions about this place. Like, we won't get answered unless they do like the book crap that they do all the time. We're like, all right, well, there's a bunch of plot holes. We're going to explain it in a book
that's what they do. There's a prequel book. There's an additional material comic. And
it's gotten to a point where these movies were already made to sell merchandise,
of course,
to sell toys
from the beginning.
But now it's getting to a point where it's leaving so much behind for the films that need to be picked up. In like comics and books and stuff like I don't mind reading comics and books and stuff like that. I just don't want them to be absolutely necessary to have all of my questions answered in the movies.
They used to be supplemental, not required reading material to understand it. And instead of giving us that history, the first half of the film is a bunch of side quests for gadgets. Like it was a gadget game from every video game you've played. Like we have to go get the Wayfinder. Then we have to get this dagger first.
It was fetch
and then
quests.
we have to get this person to uncode. I did like the little little arc they gave for C-3PO. I did like that he wouldn't do the he wouldn't do the Sith translation. That was kind of cool.
But they introduced a law in there too. They're like by Republic Senate law.
Yeah.
This is programmed in me. Nobody's taking it out.
And I like that. That was kind of cool, and it gave C-3PO a reason to be there,
right?
Which made more sense. But then it just turned into another side quest, like just like the last one. We need to find this this code breaker or whatever the Last Jedi one was.
Like the dagger really made me mad because the little insert that was in it that she pulled out to have the Goonies moment with the Death Star. That dagger looked fucking ancient, didn't it?
Yeah, and that Death Star's only been there for 30 years or so.
So somebody went out there, carved into this dagger how to get to this place based off of a failed Sith weapon that anybody could go out and find stuff for, and then it's got this handy dandy little compass insert in it
that you just happen to be standing at the right place on the shore.
Yeah.
And then you see it, and then when she gets there, it's not even hidden. It's just in a side room. Yeah. You telling me no one has gone into that Death Star and that's what she was doing. Yeah. She was raiding Star Destroyers in the beginning of Force Awakens, and no one's gone into the Death Star in 40 years?
They mentioned, well, I imagine somebody did, but that makes it even worse because it's like, so for the time that thing's been on that planet, because Janna and those other abandoned Star Troopers, like they were scavenging stuff.
Right.
They were salvaging shit.
So that's the one door they never opened?
Yeah. It's
Maybe it was genetic because she's Palpatine and it opened.
Yeah, but that's a weak excuse for it to go. I don't know. We've got to talk about positives at this point now.
I mean, because it's easy to nitpick the shit out of this movie.
So I really liked this part of the last moment of the movie where Rey holds the lightsaber behind her and passes it to Kylo.
Yeah,
that was really cool. I loved their. I loved the
set it up with the previous two scenes too.
Yeah,
that it wasn't like all of a sudden she's passing it to him.
No, they did it a couple times so that when it meant something, you were like, okay, they've done it before.
I loved the Death Star fight moment. The lightsaber duel on there, but because you could see that it was just Rey using like raw anger and emotion, and Kylo doing the same thing.
And then they got tired. Well, Rey got tired. She was just getting emotionally and physically drained at the end, and you could just tell she was just like, Hi, like I'm gonna swing again,
And when she heals him, and the line that she says, "I did want to take your hand. I wanted to take Ben Solo's hand."
Oh yeah.
I was like, yeah, because that's what he needed. And then they kind of made me mad after that by bringing Han in and not like Luke or Leia.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So when they're fighting, Kylo gets the upper hand. He's beaten Rey down. I don't think he was going in for the death strike, but he was certainly like about to finish her off or whatever.
He said that he didn't want to kill her.
Right.
So he
had the upper hand.
Go to the dark side.
And Leia reached out to him and she said his name. Now I believe that she talked more to him, but they didn't film her talking about other things. But she said his name. He got distracted. He dropped his lightsaber, and Rey killed him. And then
he was distracted for a while.
Yeah,
he was clearly
made me
like
think that they were having
a
a conversation.
Yeah.
So then she kills him. She heals him. She takes his ship and leaves. And then he has this moment with Han, which I like that they brought Han back as kind of a redemption moment because everybody was like, "Really? That's how you take Han out?"
I didn't hate that because
he wasn't
the way
Force
he
ghost. He was a memory.
Yeah.
And they even redid the lines from his final scene, just reworked them a little different and meaning a different thing. Him and Kylo had kind of the same exchange, but it was for a different purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I like the theory that was more Leia than anything else because Leia doesn't Force Ghost away until Kylo dies.
Yeah, so that was what I was thinking too. Is that like throughout that part of the film, like she was kind of helping him along.
Like he wasn't possessed or anything because it's not like
she was just in his ear,
right? Yeah, but she was helping him out.
That made a lot of sense right after she. Like when she Force ghosted away. At that point, I was like, oh, okay. So she was like using all that she had of her life force to talk to Kylo and to influence him towards the right way because he needed that push.
And it was cool to see Han back, but I did kind of wish it was Luke because Luke was his original master. And at the end of The Last Jedi, he said, I'll be seeing you, kid. Yeah. And he didn't. And I really thought like he was going to be like, hey, man, I used to train you. We could still chat, I'm gonna haunt you now, but that never happened unless it's a deleted scene somewhere.
So my other half was actually really upset that they killed Kylo off, or that he sacrificed himself basically to save Rey. I didn't mind it at all because I minded it a little bit, but I didn't mind it simply because I think Kylo would have known that if he had survived, gotten Rey out, and met up with the resistance at that point saying, hey, I'm on your guys' side now, there's no way they'd been able to forgive him for everything that he had done.
Let alone the fan base. But he redeemed himself in her eyes because she was just as troubled as he was. Yeah. But yeah, the resistance as a whole was like, fuck you, dude. You've killed so many people.
Like, and he let go this moment years ago.
Yeah.
But he let go of like all of the like all of his selfish ambition. He was like, all right, she's like the hope for people, and I don't want her to die, and she had saved me before, so there's only way.
And that moment was, like I said, because the first few I was like Kylo, and that was where I was like, okay, he developed into a truly great character, and like his fight scene with the Knights of Ren.
That was pretty cool. I would have liked to have seen more of it though.
I would have too, not just some dudes walking around a room.
Right.
But in the time crunch that they were in for that moment, it made sense that they kind of had to speed through that.
I feel like if JJ had written The Last Jedi, we would have had more of a relationship develop between Rey and Kylo. I feel like they had a relationship, not a romantic relationship. I feel like they had this connection. They were both troubled. They bonded over that. But her whole thing of I would have taken Ben's hand, she's, unless there's some deleted scenes out there with her talking to Han about Ben and her talking to Leia about Ben and her developing this romanticism about the son that she never knew and instead he's Kylo, that would have been cool. The kiss at the end was short and it was for all the Reylo fans out there. It was for the Reddit.
Very much forced.
In the sense that they both struggled with things, okay, but the romanticism never existed. She had no romantic thoughts for Ben unless there was all these other scenes where she learned about him and she romanticized about what he could have been. But we didn't get that, so it didn't feel like anything to me.
It could have been like a holy crap, we're alive. like, holy crap, we're alive, and they just got overwhelmed with emotion. So I can excuse that. That wasn't the most offensive
Or
thing
maybe
to me in
that
the movie.
the kiss was
Yeah, it didn't like make me puke or whatever.
No, it didn't.
If they didn't kiss, then they'd both be alive.
Yeah.
But the kiss was the final, took the final breath or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Suck it out.
I tell you, the throwaway characters that were introduced in the movie were kind of like Poe's girlfriend.
I liked her.
like-
I think that was setting up a side Disney Plus show with Poe and her.
Which is fine,
It's
but
Carrie Russell.
but she didn't get to do anything. She showed up for a little bit, kind of followed him
She came
around.
in at the end?
Yeah, she came in at the end, but
It was
like, how'd she get off the planet?
it was the better version of the Casino Planet in The Last Jedi. That's what it was.
That is a low bar to set, though.
I know, but it
was so
but
bad.
it was the exact same thing. They needed to go to the Casino Planet to find this code breaker. Well, they needed to go to this. It's not Gemini, but it sounds kind of like that. They needed to go to that planet to find the little thing that could do C-3PO, and they found this other character. It was the same exact.
Babu
setup.
Frick is pretty.
I love Babu Frick. Yeah, he was, and I love that you could kind of understand him, and you couldn't understand him at other parts. That was just cracking me up.
Yeah. Well, when he actually tried speaking English, it was like super broken, but like kind of cute at the same time.
Yeah.
There was some good humor in this movie. Not all of it landed, but there was some.
Yeah.
That one scene when they first come into Burning Man, and C-3PO is like telling them like, "Oh, this is great. You know, it only happens every 42 years. They got great food and everything," and they're all looking at him. And then he just like turns around. That cracked me up so much. I was like, "Yes, that's good." Yeah.
The banter between the crew when they get to the planet, I don't know why, but I found it kind of funny. But like, because they've been dealing with each other so much in this capacity, they're kind of annoyed with each other at that point. I thought like they didn't get a lot of character development in this film, but like the arguing in back and forth between them and like show that they work together a lot to where they have just these like annoyances with each other.
Yeah. And JJ loves to write those yelling over each other conversations.
Yeah.
You know, not like I'll say a thing, then you say a thing. It's no, we're all talking at the same time.
Well, and those are real too.
Yeah.
Like, that's how a real argument would go. Like nobody's gonna back down to like, oh, let me silently hear your side of the argument while I'm raging mad.
Right. Did you think they were gonna kill Finn at the end? Like they were gonna give him another death thing because he was staying around and he was gonna blow up the thing?
So by the time the end of the movie was around, I was like, okay, nobody's gonna die. I know. Yeah, we'll fix that. Because they gave Chewie a fake death. Like it was at a point where I was muttering this in my head: no body, no dead. And I was just like, no body, no dead.
And then Avery.
Did you even have time to cry?
Well, it was one of those where like just the initial like because they did kill off everybody else. Like they were starting to kill people off.
That's true.
And so I was like, that's how Chewie goes?
So
what?
Yeah.
And so then it
was
like,
a cool scene
emotion.
though.
Yeah. Then
Yeah,
the
it was a
emotion,
really cool
it was
scene.
starting to go, and then like, but what got me too was that Avery, my son, was right next to me, and he was like, just like, Chewie's gone.
Because they sold it like
right.
she shrieked and Finn shrieked. It was the better version of the Dark Phoenix Force scene with Phoenix and Magneto when they were doing the whole thing, and then she accidentally does the lightning. I was like, oh, they went there, and I was like high praising it. I was like, they actually went there. But then before you could even ponder whether or not it actually happened, they revealed it. I think they revealed it way too soon.
Right? I didn't.
It's like the next scene.
I didn't buy it for a second because I was like, if they killed Chewie like that, they know they'd pissed off. That's
what I was gonna be like. They got some balls,
like, right? I was like, that's how Chewie goes.
No,
like,
they don't have the nuts to do it that way.
But then I mean, just exactly. They were like, oh no, wait, we won't even give you like 2 seconds to think that we had the nuts to do it. We're gonna show you that we didn't.
We're gonna toy with your emotions.
And then after that, it was like, then they're not gonna kill off anybody. They're gonna let the one person die that already died in real life, but then they're not gonna kill off anybody else.
Right.
Even though it would have been nice to give Finn a send-off, like they set him up again to be that guy that stays behind and gets the hard job done. And then, of course, that's the other thing we haven't talked about Finn. All of the Reddit hopes that he was Force sensitive. Well, now he is.
Yeah.
And they even had like the moment when all the sound in the movie drops out. And they're like, how do you know that's the ship? And he goes, I feel it.
Yeah, and they did hint at that hard.
I laughed so.
Well, let's go ahead and start closing out. There we go, part 3. Let's close out. Let's throw in some final comments.
Okay.
Favorite thing about absolute favorite thing out of the movie, favorite moment or whatever.
They made Palpatine creepy again.
Yes.
They
That
really
was
did.
That the whole Sith planet, the lightning, the sound effects, the reveal of the arena. I think they did that so well.
Like with him not being introduced sooner, and and the way they introduced him in this movie, notwithstanding, they did do him pretty well.
They did.
Well, then they had the part where he
was like sucking life force out,
and then going back to what we know as the Emperor.
Yeah,
and it was
interesting that they didn't bring him back to like Senate form. They just brought him back to Emperor form,
but
he looked better.
Yeah, the creepiest and
and he had the red in his robe and everything. He looked good.
Yeah.
It
was clear to see that was kind of a way that he was keeping himself alive, that he might have been absorbing other people's life forces and crap like that.
Last quarter of the movie, it was just, it looked great and it sounded great, and I really liked it. I really liked it.
I wanted more dogfighting. I wanted more dogfighting in the final battle, but that's okay.
Well, the final battle scene when you look up and you see all of the ships and stuff,
and the size
and just everything.
Yeah.
Just.
Are you talking your favorite moment right now?
Yeah, that just kind of like the almost end game with everybody coming to help kind of thing.
Almost in game. It was so in game.
Well,
it was everything but the portals.
Right.
Assemble.
See, portal.
They have portals.
I know.
They went through a portal to get
out.
there.
Yeah. They said everything but Poe on your left.
Yeah. Right.
That would have been great. So that kind of did actually too.
But it kind of did.
Even Lando kind of had an on your left moment there.
Right. That whole scene just was awesome. And for me, then
the John Williams score kicked in.
Yeah. Well, but like the moment,
it's all John Williams.
To go back with the one that really stuck, and I know, but for me, just to see Chewie get the medal was like, oh, he finally got the medal. Finally,
that was the first thing you sent in our chat.
And that's what I would stick by as my favorite moment was Chewie got his medal.
Like just all caps.
And he was holding that up at the end. He was like, look at it!
And just how excited he was.
I just remember seeing our chat. It popped up on my phone. I was like, Chewie got his medal. I'm like, okay.
And then here comes Josh.
Gonna slam that hammer down. My favorite moment was when they kind of decided to take advantage of that force connection and kind of hand the lightsaber off.
It was neat.
That was really cool.
Yeah,
because he was surrounded and he didn't have a weapon.
Right.
And he was like, I got one now, bitches.
Yeah.
Right.
And he got to hold his grandfather's lightsaber, and that was a really significant. The weird little shrug that he did.
No,
he was like, yeah, here we go.
I'm good, bitches.
Didn't know I could do this, could you?
Yeah.
I just liked that. He was fine. He was just finally yeah, this is. I can deal with this. I'm gonna kill these guys off.
Mm-hmm.
That was a really gratifying moment that that lightsaber kind of came full circle back into the family.
Mm-hmm.
But I also really liked seeing Rey light up her yellow lightsaber
at the end. It was kind of cool. It had that flicker thing.
Yeah, you actually got to see a switch.
Yeah,
I think that's the first time in any movie you actually see somebody manipulate a switch to turn on a lightsaber.
Right.
But I really hope that that's going on the end of her staff. I don't think we're gonna see any movies with her anymore. But that was really cool to see.
So after the finale and everything, after the whole I am Iron Man moment, but it was I am all the Jedi. It was the same cadence, and I was like, am Iron Man, but no, it's all the Jedi. After all
we got an on your left moment, we got an I am Iron Man moment. It's like they're following a formula.
It's like they're the same studio that produced these. So she goes back to the Luke's old home. And I guess she kept the Falcon too. She got the Falcon because she flew the Falcon there.
Or it's just part of the fleet and it's kind of her ship. I guess. Well, she stole it.
Yeah, so
she stole it. It's hers.
So it seems like she's
I guess
gonna.
If anybody in the lineage was gonna get the Falcon,
right?
Didn't BB come with her too? Well,
BB came with her.
Maybe Chewie was on the ship too and some stuff.
Well, she probably.
But it looks like she's gonna live
in the deal.
She's gonna live in Luke's old house, and she's gonna clean it up. And she put the old sabers in the ground, and she has her own. And hence the name of the movie,
Is she gonna live there, or was she just kind of putting those lightsabers in sort of an offset place that's still close to?
I took it
Took the name. That old lady was like, "It's been a long time since someone's lived here. Who are you?" Did you like that she took the name of Skywalker?
I do, in the sense of giving Palpatine and that name, that running around the galaxy going, "I'm Rey Palpatine." People are gonna be like,
I think it was a reasonable answer to like the question. Be like, yeah, because I'm not exactly like what you said. Like, I'm not gonna say that I'm Palpatine or anything like that. But
I think it could have been just as cool if she was like, "I'm gonna bring a new name, a new sense to the name of Palpatine," or just kept with "I'm Rey," and I can just be Rey. I think the Skywalker thing was just like, to all the people that were like, "Oh, she's a Skywalker," kind of.
I think that was just the only way that they could justify the title of the movie.
And that's the whole reason they said the title was for that little line.
Maybe there was more of a connection with Ben and had Ben. But although he's a solo, so
I think that
it would have called him the last Skywalker. But yeah,
I think that it would have made a lot more sense if she had not given a last name and she's like, "I'm just Rey."
Yeah,
kept with that from her earlier line in the movie,
right?
And kind of stuck with what Luke said. It's like, there are things stronger than blood.
Mm-hmm.
Like, doesn't matter what your last name is. Essentially, like, it doesn't matter who you're connected to. And she's like, "I'm just Rey." And I was like, and she's just off doing her own thing.
I'm gonna do a little shout out throughout to Avery, and his favorite part of the movie was when the guy from Starkiller Base, the commander, who's the spy now, when he gets shot, he goes, wasn't that just satisfying seeing him get shot and slide across the floor?
That was a great moment with Finn.
Those blasters have got some oomph.
Yeah, right? Finn was like, "I'm not going to shoot you in there. I'm going to do you in the leg." Right. That was awesome.
Yeah.
And then he gets killed. Yeah, because so he wasn't really like a good spy. He was just like I'm going to sell you some information.
Yeah, it was a political move.
Which enemy is worse?
Yeah.
And
there was a kid, so you know when someone's phone goes off or when a light comes on, it really annoys the crap out of you in a theater. So we were watching it, and every time it got to a really dark, like scary moment, a light would pop on behind me, and I'd be like, "What the hell?" And I finally turned around to see what it was, and it was this little girl who had this little mini green lightsaber, and she was just like putting it up whenever it got really scary, and she just like hold it by her face, and I was like, "Oh, that is
cute. Adorable."
That's awesome.
So I couldn't hate her for it.
There was like a row of lightsabers, like fair enough. They were nice about it. They took like way back in the theater, but they had like the nice Force Effects lightsabers and stuff like that, which kind of makes me sad that I didn't bring mine.
Yeah,
I would have been like, "I'm gonna jump up there."
Would have been a cool like fan thing to do.
But yeah, it was like there was like a group of people that took their lightsabers in there, and like whenever the duels were going on, you could hear them kick on. So I was like,
"Oh yeah, that'd be cool." Here's the thing: this, for the longest time, this was the original 7, 8, and 9. This is what everybody heralded as the trilogy that we'd never get. This was the Thrawn trilogy. Started with Heir to the Empire. They did an audio drama with this that had a soundtrack. It had voice actors. It had all the special effects. And for decades, this is what we had. And I still believe that if they had not taken a break and they had used all these actors in their primes and they had filmed this would have been amazing to see. And, you know, watching these films, I hate that I have these on my shelves because I'm like, man, this still feels better. But to be fair, you know, after The Last Jedi, I was like, you know, damn it, Disney, what are you doing, man? And I get
Selling
it.
toys.
I get it, but the choices they made and the freedom that they gave Rian Johnson. I like Rian Johnson. I like a lot of the films he's done. Yeah. I haven't seen Knives Out, but I've heard it's really good.
Yeah.
If you're going to give somebody the freedom to do their own thing, have it separate. Don't give him a middle film and then expect somebody to come up and clean up after his mess for a third movie. It just doesn't make sense.
Or at least let JJ in on the process still.
Well, and apparently he left notes, but they just discarded him, and I think that was a bad move. But saying all that, this movie could have been so much worse. It could have been bad, and I could choose to hate it for all they did course correct so much. Like, instead of just let's nudge back to the left a little bit and make it correct, they like swerved and to overcorrect. And I get that, and I could hate it for that reason, but I can't change the past. I can't undo The Last Jedi. So I really just wanted to go there and feel good about it and exit feeling good, and I did. And so to JJ's credit, well done in
Yes.
finding some type of balance. And I think more people will be balanced in finding a way to like this movie than there will be those that just want to hate it.
I agree, and I feel the same about wanting to leave, because if this is the final to the original saga and everything, I feel content at where it ended.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Would I be opposed to solo Rey movies or going off of?
I don't think they should, ma'am.
No, but it's always in the realm of possibility.
I wouldn't see more post-solo missions.
Right. And
I'd love to find out how Poe became like the best pilot in the galaxy.
I want backstory
some
for Poe.
spice running.
And
some spice running.
So I can see doing a lot more of that, and who knows, they may be having a Rey movie that explains how she got so powerful and all of those in between moments. And
do we want that though? Do we want an in between?
No, but again, like I said, it's one of those that if
I'm
this
fine with
truly is
comic.
the end, then I'm satisfied.
And
I don't want this to be the end of Star Wars, which it's not going to be.
Definitely won't be, because I mean, wasn't there talk about Rian Johnson having his own trilogy of
not
movies?
anymore.
Oh, is that going
Well,
on?
no, that hasn't been completely obliterated. The Game of Thrones duo has been obliterated. That's no longer happening. But Rian Johnson
fine
might
with
still
that.
have his trilogy. Yeah. I think if anything, this has united people in the want for Star Wars stuff that has nothing to do with the episode films.
Yes.
I think overall,
let the Lucas legacy lie.
Yes.
And go let the Disney.
I think before there was a split and people were like, no, I want more Luke and I want more Leia and I want more Han. I think if they succeeded in doing anything, it was uniting the fan base and saying, if you want to do more Star Wars, just do something else, we'll get behind it.
They put it to bed, and
The Mandalorian is a great example of that.
It is
so far.
Although for those of you who noticed, they released the Mandalorian on Wednesday night in a very smart move. For people
Mandalorian spoilers.
Yeah, Mandalorian spoilers. So for people that haven't played the games or read the comics, they've never shown Force healing in the movies before. Nope. And they released the Mandalorian on Wednesday night, the night before most premieres for this, and it showed little baby Yoda doing some Force healing.
Well, they were also hinting
His name
to
is
that.
Kevin.
His name is Kevin.
The child. But they hinted at it even before that too, when
he tried to make a
he tried, and Mando's like, "What are you doing?"
He's like, "Stop!
And,
get back in your crib!" Yeah,
right? And
he tried like 3 times.
Right.
But yeah, so it was like they did it just for that. And when I saw that happen at first in the movie, I'm like, that's why they released it on Wednesday. Because I was wondering, I'm like, is this going to weirdly sync up to the movie somehow? And it was really just that one thing of, oh, you that's never been done before? Oh, well, it was done last night on The Mandalorian.
And it's fresh in the brains.
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat. Just in closing, I left the theater a happy person. Mm-hmm. I left the theater a happy Star Wars fan. I have a lot of questions, but I mean, I've been reading comics again, so if they're going to release some comics that kind of fill in plot holes, it's like, fine, we'll let it happen. But I'm excited to see the future of Star Wars from here. I'm excited to see what more gets done. I've just beaten Jedi Fallen Order again.
Yeah, I heard that game is amazing.
Because it is an excellent story. It is an absolutely excellent story. The combat is excellent. Mm-hmm. And if they consider that part of Star Wars canon as well, that's great. If they don't, you can still make it feel like canon because it doesn't really change anything as far as the Saga movies go. So it's just that nice to have extra Star Wars content where they're telling good stories in that universe. That's what I want for the future. It's like,
because it's a universe, man.
Yeah, there's so much that you can do. So take that universe, tell good stories. Just focus on telling good stories. There doesn't have, as we're seeing with the Mandalorian, there doesn't have to be an actual Jedi in each one of them. Having a Force-sensitive child is fine. I can get away with that, but that's not the main. That's not necessarily like the main driver of the film. Like he's able to help out in some situations, but you're really dealing with like criminal underworld experts and stuff like that. That's the big thing. I am excited to see the Obi-Wan series.
Yes.
I think that'll be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
To see kind of a grizzled hermit Obi-Wan, see how he's handling that. I'm excited for the future of Star Wars.
As am I.
Like,
Me too. I mean, I could have easily seen this as, man, I'm just so sick of Star Wars.
you could get burned out
one a
very
year.
easily.
I'm done with it. I don't feel like that. Yeah.
No.
And any movie to this scale, you can nitpick to hell. But the difference is, the more I talked to myself and to other people about The Last Jedi, the more I just got irritated and hated that film. But I can nitpick the Return or the Rise of Skywalker to death and still say that I really did like it. And I'm really excited about what happens. And I think, you know, to your point of other material or other films or shows that we get, I do want to see another Jedi show. And what I really want to see is not a lineage Jedi. I just want to see a person that becomes a Jedi. That's not the granddaughter of somebody,
Right.
or the daughter or the son of somebody. I want to see that I want to see it from the beginning. And I think we could all bond around a character now that is not the. We don't have to have that twist that they're a Skywalker or that they're a Solo. Just let's all bond around a new character.
So there's a specific dynamic that gets explored in Jedi Fallen Order. I keep pointing at my PC because that's what I'm playing it on. Where like there's a it's kind of a main arc that kind of follows throughout the whole game about the main character and his master, but going through like flashbacks of when the main character was still a young child. He was still a youngling Padawan. I would like to see a series or even a Star Wars story about a master and a Padawan, and like the Padawan being like just about ready to become a knight at that point. Like he hasn't gotten there yet. And they're going through all this stuff, and like seeing like the relationship that gets developed between master and student.
Yeah.
Like I would like to see more about what the actual Jedi trials are.
Yes.
Like illustrated on screen, because like I've read about it, I've gone through it in games, but
So
I would
you
like
want it to be like when the Jedi were in their prime. You want it to be back then, not like a Luke situation where the Jedi
maybe in
are
their
kind of dead.
Yeah, like in their prime before they had disappeared. Like back in those times.
That could be really cool.
Like Knight of the Republic.
Yeah, like the Old Republic. Like the Old Republic is a
yeah.
very close thing to me because of the two KOTOR games. The Old Republic MMO, I enjoyed quite a bit, and I played a lot of it. If they did a Revan storyline, it'd be amazing.
Think about, I mean,
There's talks of that one.
the trailers
There's
for the
always- there's been
DLCs
talks about
of
that
those
for
games
forever.
are amazing. If you go back and watch the trailers for just the DLCs for the Knights of the Old Republic, they're like those little 5-minute clips are 10 times better than this whole new trilogy, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I would love to see some of that. We don't need to do those. We don't need to do those stories, but we can write stories in that universe.
Right.
I think, for the love of God, Disney, if you're going to, you did that. Your first command, your first order was to wipe out the extended universe from canon. I don't want your take on that. I don't want the next films to be your take on the Thrawn trilogy, or your take on something else, or your take on Knights of the Old Republic.
Bring
Just
us
pick an
something we
era
don't know.
and just do it new, and then you don't have to worry about this. Oh, it was better before, or oh, you did this to this character.
And I see Disney doing that because that's one. It's going to open a whole nother line of merch and new characters, and that's why we have gotten BB-8 and why we've got Dio and all those other merchandise.
And with the success of The Mandalorian and the anticipated success of the Obi-Wan series and Disney Plus, I think we'll see more television shows or straight to Disney Plus movies. Which,
and I'm more than okay with that. I'd almost rather it just go straight to Disney Plus. And
That's fine. That's what they've built it for now.
Yeah.
The only one other thing I'll say that really makes me excited about the future of Star Wars, based off this movie alone, was they went dark with this movie. You know, my favorite thing about those trailers for the Knights of the Old Republic is that they were all like really dark storylines, like a father who made his sons like become like rivals and stuff like that as part of the army.
Rivalry to make them stronger.
They were all like really dark storylines, and this movie got really dark. And I've always been afraid that Disney was just going to make it really family friendly, and to a point they've kind of done that with Mandalorian. All the trailers for Mandalorian, we were like, this is going to be a badass assassin bounty hunter. and it's as fun as it is to watch. It's a toy commercial for Baby Yoda, and the Mandalorian gets his ass beat every single fucking episode. But I mean, at least the Rise of Skywalker showed you that they can go dark, and maybe they'll do a dark Sith show or show some of the darker elements of the Force in future Star Wars content.
Well, I think
more about fallen stormtroopers.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I think with like Mandalorian and stuff that yes, and like Seth and I kind of touched about this before you got here, was that it has kind of a comic vibe to it, where the pacing of it. And
it's Favreau all over.
Right.
Yeah.
And that, but I kind of like the fact that Mando isn't just like, he's a badass, but he's not just a come in and he's done.
Yeah, it's not God mode. Yeah, sure.
Right, and that he doesn't know what he's doing right now, because he's
exiled.
Right, and he's like he had his path and everything else, and now he strayed from that path, and he doesn't know what to do, and then like he's like the one of the worst babysitters ever. In the fact of that he keeps leaving the
every
child in the ship, and it's like he just needs a baby, like
he really doesn't learn.
Child holder right here, and just like, and then let the child like repel blaster shots, and he might not have to get his armor repaired all the time.
I'm fine.
But
either pick though. Either say that he's young and he's still learning things, or don't, because when we see other characters that recognize him, they keep talking about his badass past, and I'm like, well, then what happened to that dude? Because he's just not a badass in this show. He's not a horrible character.
We're going on a tangent.
I know. I'm sorry. This has nothing to do with the Rise of Skywalker.
We're going a little too far into the Mandalorian at this point.
Yeah.
We will definitely have a video on the Mandalorian after that series is over. So we'll talk about that. I think based off of this, you kind of know how it's going to go, at least for Josh.
Oh, I still enjoy the show.
But yeah, as far as the Rise of Skywalker, I walked out a happy person. I think we all did.
Yeah, good job, Disney. Good job, JJ.
I have not watched any reviews yet. I wanted to get our thoughts out first before I had somebody else kind of influencing what I might think. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you guys enjoyed the movie, at least like we did. Like, sure,
or if you
nitpicks
didn't,
are fine.
tell us why you didn't. I mean, there's a lot of people in the Jeremy Johns camp and the Chris Stuckman camp, and I love those guys. And like I said, I understand. If you hate this movie, I understand it. I'm sorry you couldn't find a way to like it. I think we just found a way to like it.
Nothing else, be happy that it's finally done.
But I'm not going to hate you for not liking it. I'm not going to put bait posts on a Star Wars Facebook page for the next 2 years saying, why didn't you like this movie? Because I think people have done that for a long time. We don't need to have the toxicity around The Last Jedi around this movie. Either you liked it or you didn't like it, but we can be united and looking forward to more stuff.
That's the main thing. Let's look forward to the future of Star Wars. Let's subscribe to Nerfherders Assemble.
Hell yeah. We'll talk about it here.
Let's hit the like button. Let's comment below. Let us know what you guys thought. We'll have another podcast where we sit through and we talk more about the entire Star Wars universe, kind of like we did here, but not so much just focused around our review of the Rise of Skywalker. Mm-hmm. But we're going to have more trailer reactions coming you guys' way. We're going to have more movie reviews coming you guys' way. And any other pieces of content that we can think of or stuff that you guys might like to see, let us know.
So much coming in 2020. I think there's so many movies that we need to pair up on.
2020 is gonna be a big year for Nerfherders Assemble.
Heck yes. So subscribe, stick around.
We will see you guys later. Thanks for watching.